Okay, here we are, hour number 3, and I'm trying to cue something up in the background here. We have with us tonight our colleague and one of the most remarkable people I've ever had the pleasure to work with. He is environmentally brilliant. He knows so much about so many things, it's almost scary. But he has risked his life. I don't know how many times he's been back inside the exclusion zone at Fukushima to find out the truth as much as we can before they pass the secrecy law there, which shut down all of our good material. We were getting a reasonable stream of pretty good stuff, especially from the so-called employees of TEPCO, the slave labor, sacrificial lambs or whatever. We get nothing now. Very little. We don't know what structurally is going on there. They tell us about a robot that goes in there and lasts about 20 minutes and then dies. They don't tell us about the buildings leaning. They don't tell us about the ground being wet and saturated. They don't tell us about reactor building 4 leaning 32, 33 inches or something over to the side on its, I guess it would be the north side. Anyway, one side. It's a desert out there. Just like they say the Pacific Ocean is a desert. Welcome back, Yoshi. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Sorry I've been missing a couple of shows. I was doing some traveling out on the Silk Road where I used to have a environmental project in the desert, just trying to go over some of the lessons of that work. That ended in a disaster. Vast storms coming out of the Indian Ocean. Caused, I believe, by this hot spot in Somalia, off the coast of Somalia, where the Italian mafia dumped shiploads of nuclear waste from European nuclear plants, secretly, of course, and causing these massive floods, Pakistan, Kashmir, Sichuan, China, and finally Gobi Desert. Never had these things for like 15,000 years. They're happening now. Nuclear energy, extremely powerful stuff, especially when set loose, in strong concentration, very purified plutonium, highly enriched plutonium. We just don't have a clue as to what it's doing. But we're finding out. We're finding out in the North Pacific, but now we're finding out along the Tropic of Cancer between, Central America and the Philippines. This band of cyclones that are coming out, typhoons that are along that whole stretch of this is the current, the trade winds that, Spanish galleons, the Spanish ships used to bring silver from Mexico, the big mines in Mexico, over to the Philippines and then into Canton, China to buy silk, pottery, and tea, and then other galleons would then pick them up and take them across the Indian Ocean to Spain. So this was an old trading route between the New World and the old world of Asia. And we're seeing a whole line of cyclones there, and that's kind of unprecedented, just seeing them all lined up. And what this indicates, just like we've seen these, weather events on the North Pacific Current and down the California Current, this is part of that whole cycle. This is where the California Current, North Pacific Current, California Current, all coming from Japan past, and affected by Fukushima, affecting the American coast, West Coast, and then coming back across Asia. So we're nearly completing this full cycle way ahead of time of this radioactive water, this radioactive seawater coming back across to Asia. And then we're seeing these huge super typhoons. One just hit China. It's a fast typhoon because I'm feeling the effects in northern Thailand. I feel, and in a very low pressure, I feel like I used to deal with a kid in Kobe where we had a lot of typhoons hit. You get these terrible migraine headaches. You have just general problems throughout your body because of a massive drop in the barometric pressure. So these are vast weather events now becoming,
they are.
Basically, at least across the in terms of sense global, at least across the northern hemisphere, the effects of Fukushima on top of Chernobyl and all the other radioactive events, really having these massive weather effects that we've just never seen for thousands of years, perhaps. Just like this hotspot off of Somalia. Tremendous, powerful force that's been unleashed And unfortunately, is the most innocent of living things. I'm not talking about humans. We're all guilty to a certain extent. But this kill-off of whales that you've mentioned on your website up in Alaska, California, it's really reached the top of the food chain in the North Pacific.
It's devastating the food chain.
It's a massive event, but it's really moved from the smallest of algae, the very small fishes, the herring and so on, right up to the largest of animals on Earth, And this is an environmental crime of the highest order when we're wiping out from the very bottom to the very top of a marine food chain. These whales are among the largest creatures on Earth. We don't know what's happening to sperm whales, blue whales, the larger whales. Mm-hmm. Presumably they're gone too. We just will never see their carcasses.
I don't know. I haven't heard of any reports of people seeing them, even sighting them. The only one that we've heard was the one you reported that went into Tokyo Bay.
Tokyo Bay and died. It was fled from Fukushima, went into Tokyo Bay, and lo and behold, that fresh water, which should have been the brackish water, which should have been a haven for it, turned out to be highly radioactive. As we know, the drinking water, all the rivers around Tokyo are radioactive. The water is basically undrinkable. People are still drinking and bathing in it. And this way killed this whale. So, whales, of course, spend all their time in water. We spend 10 minutes in the shower, 5 minutes in the shower. They spend their whole time in that water.
Yeah. So somebody said... somebody said that, again, first time I've heard it in a while, a call to evacuate Tokyo. It's not going to happen. Those people will stay there until they die. But there is a call.
There's one doctor. There's one Dr. Koida from Tokyo who said that it is unlivable. And I'm afraid he's right.
Koida?
I wish he was an alarmist.
Yeah, he's...
Yeah. I wish he was an alarmist. He moved out himself. He moved his place because he realized there's no point. You really can't treat people when they're in a constant condition like this. They've got to move out if they're concerned about the health of their families, their pets, and so on. They've got to get out first, and then you can treat them. But, death rate skyrocketing. We don't know really why so many people in jail. This was 2014 was the killingest year in Japanese history. This followed the four previous record years of deaths in Japan. So, and I think you mentioned there's a huge cancer outbreak in the western states of North of the United States.
The rates are up, but they're not talking, Yoshi. They're the lid's on. Mm-hmm. They still keep. It's like the UFO cover up. The lid's on, but so many people are developing cancers now, and will in the next 4, 5, 10 years. All plausibly deniable. Yeah. Well, they had nothing to do with Fukushima. How can you say that? It just goes along with the epidemic. Never mind the epidemic will be double. It has a lot
to do with smoking. The West Coast of America, I don't think there are any restaurants left where there's indoor, smoking, right? You can't smoke indoors.
No.
So that eliminates what was claimed to be the largest cause of cancer before. So that's been gone for how many years now? A decade or so? I mean, there's hardly been anything. People,
right.
And the number of smokers seem to have declined from just visually. You look down, there's not that many people outside puffing on cancer sticks there. So obviously you eliminate that cause. There's a lot of pollution controls now. Deindustrialization. So you don't have the same toxism. A lot less mining out there in the West Coast. The mines have shifted to other places. Mm-hmm. So, all the other causes of cancer are going away. American people should be out, especially on the West Coast, a lot of sunshine, fresh air, good, organic food and all that. The numbers of people coming down with cancer should be radically declined. Of course, there is GMO, okay? I won't take that away as a factor. But that should take a little longer to take you out. So what could be the cause? Just like what could be killing these whales? The Alaskan scientists up there in Alaska, that's off Kodiak Island, where they've seen a lot of whale deaths, have ruled out domoic acid. As I mentioned, there was this one team in University of California, Santa Cruz, have been pushing domoic acid, which is basically red tide, algae. As we pointed out many times before, north of Santa Cruz, up to Alaska, it's too cold. You don't see red tides up there, So
I just don't
it would be more for the warmer waters. Yeah.
They talk about domoic acid. They talk about viruses. They talk about acidification of the ocean. They will never, ever say radiation. They never say it. They won't even say, way out there in the left field area, and a long shot could possibly be something to do with it. They won't say anything about radiation. They won't use the R word. They will not do it.
Well, the scientists, biologists up there are looking at radiation and they measure it, but they have to look in the right place. It won't be in the digestive tract because these whales died of starvation, essentially. But what causes starvation, the inability of the heart muscles in the heart to provide proper blood circulation. So there was atrophy, basically atrophy of their muscles, of their whole biocloset, basically. They just way off. They slow down, metabolic rate slow down. So blood samples, it would only show a trace. There's tons of blood in these creatures. What they've got to do is cut to the heart of the problem, and that is in the coronary system, right in the heart itself. You got to get that heart tissue, just as I found in that mother sea lion off right in front of San Onofre nuclear plant, and bingo, you'll find the radiation, you'll find the cesium there. So I hope that they do. These are huge creatures, so they've got to tow them to shore and then perform autopsies on them. Cut them open, gruesome work, as you're seeing from these photos and films of Japanese whalers. This is not pleasant work, but in this case, it's got to be done on these corpses of carcasses of whales, so that they can identify what is happening inside the heart, into the heart muscle, to the heartbeat of these great vast animals. And I think they will. If they're going to be honest, if they're going to be scientific, I think they will actually find radiation buildup there in the season. And it doesn't that much, but it's significantly high in the sea lion that I found. So I think they'll know. But the rest of the body will not show very much, as I pointed out. In the nostrils and all, you'll find some radiation, very sensitive there, and it tends to pick up on the nerves of these animals. Some of these compounds, because they're salts, they're not pure metals. They will attach to the nostril tissue and so on. So I hope they do the right job and don't just do superficial reading because of the size. I mean, it's intimidating. I mean, how many of us, even scientists with a lot of tools, have any more? But the American whaling is non-existent now. They don't even have the tools to cut these things open.
No, they don't.
I hope they can get the job done. It's fast, but it's got to be done to identify what's wrong.
Here's
Whether they
here's
can
a
get
little
the results out or not is another question, of course. Due to the Japanese money for the U.S. To the states on the west coast there, including Alaska for the beach cleanup, that Japanese money is pumping in, and a lot of state governments don't want to raise their rockets when millions of dollars are being pumped in from Japan for the beach cleanup.
Here's a little clip of the Canadian David Suzuki, who was suddenly... Huh? Do you know him?
Yes. Oh, David Suzuki, he's with CBC. He has his own science program and all.
Yeah.
He went over to Japan on a program financed by the Information Ministry of Japan, and we know the Information Ministry is not in the business of dispensing information. Quite the contrary, it's the Ministry of Propaganda, okay?
Of course it is.
So he went on the auspices of the propaganda minister to Tohoku to talk about renewable energy and Japan's fine prospects in this. Mm-hmm. Of course, renewable energy has been completely sabotaged by the banks and by the regional utilities, which are committed to saving their nuclear plants and restarting the nuclear plants. So anyway, that is the level of many scientists today. He has his own institute and all that, which is part of this whole group of cover-up artists up there in Canada. You know, they've got significant money from the nuclear industry funneled through them through various channels to, you know, basically falsify the story, to rig the data, falsify the story, come up with pretty stories about how, you know, there's this fungus, that virus, you know, it's a change of temperature, it's, you know, I don't know. Maybe there's a genetic problem inside these darn creatures that's causing them to all die off, you know, thousands of species. You know, this is nonsense, you know. This is the stuff that, what was it? Gulliver's Travel, you know, the sort of professors and scientists was describing Gulliver's Travel, a bunch of fraudsters and crooks. So, yeah, David Suzuki. I'm not saying he's a fraudster and crook. He's just like not a man who's up and up, you know, with the cards that were being dealt with.
Here's a little 2-minute clip from Suzuki. Now, this is interesting. Let's see what he says, because this was from November of 2013. Let's see what he has to say. It's just a short clip. Here we go.
Energy Foundation that was set up after Fukushima. Fukushima is the most terrifying situation I can imagine. You ask, what can we do? First of all, you have got to get a government that is in total collusion with TEPCO, the energy company. They're lying through their teeth. 3 out of the 4 plants were destroyed in the earthquake and in the tsunami. The 4th one has been so badly damaged that the fear is, if there's another earthquake of a 7 or above, that building will go, and then all hell breaks loose. And the probability of a 7 or above earthquake in the next 3 years is over 95%. Now, what they've got in there is 1,300 rods of spent fuel that have to be kept in water all the time, and they have no way of getting it out. And as you know, they're pouring water in, and that water's leaking out. And now they've got this cockamamie scheme of trying to freeze the soil so it'll form a frozen wall. They don't know what to do, and the thing we need is to get an international...
He's saying the same exact thing. He must listen to our program. Saying the same thing you do. I do. And this is 2 years ago. Now, this frozen wall, they've been trying for, it's either 1 month or 2 months. They're still trying to get parts of it to freeze up. It won't freeze, and they can't seem to figure out why. You've told them why. How many times? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, that's obviously such a boondoggle. Even the guy who's on the payroll has to question it. When, you know, I think the lowest temperature they got, freezing point in centigrade, 0. In large sections of the wall, the lowest temperature they got to was 10 degrees.
That's it?
You know, you survive swimming 10 degrees water. You know? Yeah. That's how it's based. I mean, it's you know, so it's an absolute boondoggle that's failed. They have to do it because they got to somehow control this water that's flowing through there. Because, as you know, the latest reports, they're definitely confirmed pure plutonium, you know, coming out. Plutonium isotopes are just flowing into the Pacific.
That's right.
So they've got to somehow contain that water. They're trying desperately to find a way to block it because...
They're not going to contain it. There's nothing they can do.
And the high pressure, the other thing, the high pressure in the flow of the water is going to prevent them from digging out any of the nucleus, you know, the corium that apparently is under the soil. I mean, they're starting to admit now, you know, TEPCO scientist Shinichi Suzuki, as you see on ENE News, has admitted that there looks like to be a serious rupture from the containment chamber, and there's leakage out of containment. And then he's also mentioned there's a shortage of fuel rod material inside the containment chamber. So it means his conclusion is an escape has occurred, just as we said very early on. That, you know, I think within a month or so, we said that, you know, reactor 3, from what we can tell, blew its lid, you know, fired out pieces of rod into, you know, so far away on the ocean.
Kilometers.
And that the corium had melted through. There was no way to contain, even through that thick steel and concrete. Well, concrete is really no problem. It was just melt right. It was just turning the concrete into dust, but that it did break out. So I think very early on, indications from people inside the plant, from people around the plant, that it had escaped. So now, 4 years later, they're admitting it's escaped, and this is why they want to stop the water, but it failed. Their strategy to build an ice wall is not working, and it's going to be very tough. As I pointed out earlier, when I was there, I think 2 trips ago, was it, that there's gravel all around this thing, so it's very, they're not working with not even firm soil like clay that can stop the water. So the water is flowing through as they're trying to freeze it. This is very hard, When you make ice cubes, the water has to stay still inside the freezer, with a little tray or something. So you can imagine trying to freeze water going through a water chiller.
No
that
chance.
Would be very tough. You'd have to do it. It'd be a flash freezing that you would have to do.
Yeah.
So, just using that very simple principle that there's this constant flow of water through this gravel, it's really hard to, stabilize it and stop it and to chill it, turn to crystallize it. There's just a physical momentum of the water going through. Even if it was really, really cold, would still prevent formation of ice crystals. So, I wish their system would work. It's not like we're saying that, meaning any harm. It's just that it won't work, basically, due to the dynamics of what's underneath this plant. They've got to think of something else, and which I said all along, is they've got to bore massive tunnels into the blocks there. This whole area is built on a piece of seabed that was pushed up by the tectonic action of the Pacific plate against the Okhotsk plate. Yeah. And this block rises up. In other words, it goes up into the sky, So, while underneath Fukushima, it's like hundreds of meters down behind Fukushima, behind the plant, it rises up and forms a mountain. So if you go in a diagonal direction, you can penetrate that block and get a lot of this waste safely contained inside the mountain there. So.
All right, hold on just a minute. We have to pause. Meanwhile, as you heard a brief mention of earlier, the herring have vanished from the Pacific Ocean. Did they take a trip? No, they're dead. They're all on the bottom, decomposing. They're dead. That's my guess. I haven't been down there to see. We'll be back in just a minute with Yoichi, and we'll continue our survey of the greatest calamity in recorded history, Fukushima Daiichi. Okay, and we're back with Yoichi. There are a whole lot of headlines for you to look at the top of Rense.com. Hope you'll take a look, learn, and again, I would advise you, just read the headlines. You don't have to read every story. It'll give you, I write the headlines in such a way, I try to impart as much information to you as I can. And it usually works. They're pretty informative. So let me just read the headlines, just a few of them. We'll get Yoichi's reaction to any that he'd like to comment on. At the top, latest Fukushima updates. Massive Fukushima debris removal, good luck, underway in Alaska. So how are they going to pick this stuff up? A lot of it's going to be radioactive. Where are they going to put it? Questions. Massive Fukushima debris. Think about it. And I mean it's massive. Japan's homeless. 17,000 tons of nuclear waste. that nuclear waste, 17,000 tons, is homeless. It's got nowhere to go. So what are the Japanese going to do with it? If left to their own devices, they'd probably load it on ships, sneak it out, and just dump it into the trench. Switzerland's transition away from nuclear power. It's a little light in the forest. It's worth a look. Plutonium, 10 million times higher than normal in the water off of Fukushima Daiichi. 10 million times the count higher in the water off the Fukushima, the little harbor they have there. More large marine mammals dead on California beaches. Boy, that's embarrassing. Hard for real estate people, I would think, to make a living now. Who wants to buy oceanfront property? Young herring vanished from Pacific Ocean. I told you about that. Japan raises limits. This is the clever thing they always do. They've done it again. They have raised the safe limits on radiation exposure. Now, how many nuclides are there? Over 200 at least. And they're raising them uniformly, independently of each other sometimes. They're just raising them, saying, well, this is safe for you. Don't worry about it. Photojournalist uncovers Fukushima horror. There's a good one to read. Underground wall still not frozen after 2 months. We've been talking about that as well. Then from the center column, go over to the right column, and you can find our whole archive on all the stories going back, what is it, 3.5 years now? 4.5. I see. 311. No. 4. It's 3.5. What is it, Yoshi?
I beg your pardon again? The question? I got cut off there for a second.
How many years are we into this thing? 3.5 or 4.5?
Fukushima?
Yeah.
We're 4.5 years on, and this
we're
is
heading toward 5.
I mean, we're heading for 5. This is a nightmare, and that's going to be a crucial year because that is when a lot of cancers are supposed to really start showing up.
Oh, they'll start to show.
We're seeing people die of heart attacks.
Yeah.
Cancer rates are climbing up, but in the 5th year is when we will, see, I think, without a shred of doubt, that the bloom of cancer across the northern hemisphere, across the North Pacific, up into the Arctic, even into Europe. We're going to see this rise in cancer from Fukushima. So year 5 is just an ominous time ahead. And unfortunately, we haven't made the best of these past 4.5 years due to the obstructionism of the government, of Tokyo Electric, of the banks, of the regional utilities, who are more focused on restarting their nuclear plants than they are in shutting them down, move the fuel out in the event of earthquake or volcano to prevent a second Fukushima, which would have a devastating. It would just basically put. I think we can barely contain Fukushima with all of the world's know-how.
Are we? Wait a minute. Wait.
Major disaster would be the end.
Yoshi, we're not containing everything. Anything.
We're
containing nothing. No, we're standing by as twiddling our thumbs. We're deaf, dumb, mute witnesses. Yeah. We're not containing, controlling anything. We can't do anything. No. We build leaky water tanks.
Free flow. A radionucleotides into the sea, into the air, into the drinking water. I mean, into everything. And unless we act now, I think, and they've got to stop nuclear folly. I mean, the number of nuclear plants around the world cannot increase. It has to be radically reduced, as many shut down as possible, and dispose of the fuel. The story you just talked about before I was cut off there, on my line of talk, is a key element in this whole picture. It's where is it going to go, and who is going to take it? Now, the problem is, of course, there's huge interest in Japan on that Arctic Sea route and probably linked to nuclear. But they'll probably want to send ships full of their nuclear waste. There's actually more than 17,000 tons is kind of I think, low estimate. There's far more there because Rokasho, our nuclear storage facility in far north Japan, isn't functioning well. It's sinking into the, it's built on a swamp and it's sinking into the ground. Basically, load this stuff on ships and send it to northern Canada, or northern Russia and move it up down one of the rivers up there and store it up there somewhere. And there is talk in Canada of becoming a nuclear repository. There's resistance right now in Australia. These are countries that are major exporters of uranium.
Right.
So the understanding they've supplied uranium so long without protest and profited from that they should be willing to take it back and bury it there. Now, of course, that's not how local people back there are going to see it. They had no decision in the sale of uranium, and they probably don't have any decision in where it's going to be finally stored.
Correct.
And it's not really clear the Arctic is the best place, given the fact that the ice cap is basically gone. There's nothing but turmoil, climatic turmoil up there in the Arctic due to Fukushima. I believe it's due to Fukushima, and I talked to scientists about that, and they think it's plausible that tritium, the release of tritium, had something to do with chemically breaking down the ice cap. We're in so much deep trouble. I mean, every step we take is going to just further expand the problem. But if we sit still, the problem will worsen infinitely more and faster. So it's a damned if you do and damned if you don't situation. But we've got to still move. I believe we still got to find solutions. Although any one of those could lead to another tragic and worse accident. This is the risk we take. We put ourselves.
We're on borrowed time right now.
On a volcano and slipping down.
Yeah, we're on borrowed time. We're on borrowed time.
It's really. Every solution in it contains further risk, and those are risks we have to assume. And no government wants to assume those risks because they know this disaster. If you had a major disaster, ships sinking off Canada, for example. The Canadian government will find that unacceptable. If you find something, a ship going down to Australia and it sank off there, or there's some disaster occurred on board that ship. That would be politically. So, all the politicians, I don't think right now politicians are qualified to make those decisions. There's got to be a scientific board that
I don't know that they're qualified to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, so far we can't get much confidence in the scientists. They're the people who should know, who should be honest, should be impartial.
They're liars.
But, exactly the problem. This is the exact problem. They've lied to us for 4.5 years, and what makes anyone think they're not going to continue lying for the next 40, if indeed the human species has another 40.
We still haven't seen the Operation Kelp Watch 2014 results. That's kind of funny.
No, they're choking on that one. I think that goes into the that goes into the pending file. The big file called pending, result pending. It's going to be in suspension for a long time, I think.
Well, it's like the Kaiser. It's just like the
part of the scientific community on the West Coast in Alaska are on to the fact that radiation is the cause of all these problems, including this drought. Hot water pocket off the West Coast that's preventing formation of rain clouds and all that. I think they're all starting to realize this is a mega disaster. They have not been prepared for this. They don't know how to deal with this. They still get their grants from the government to do any research. They need the federal government. The federal government, the Department of Energy's got a lock on that. The president's chief economic advisor is the head of GE, the one who built these shoddy reactors and is largely responsible for the disaster at Fukushima. So it's a conundrum, and I don't know how we're going to get out of this conundrum. There's a political conundrum, a scientific scandal of the highest proportion. Citizens
the word
bills, whatever else they've been thrown at them, Homeland Security, they're cowed. So how do you break out of this? Is the question. There are ways we could address it, and we have to do it soon because this thing is really, the last of the horses are out.
I don't see how we can do it. I don't. The technology doesn't exist on the planet. No one's come up with anything. They're not going to dig down there and find all that corium and pull it up and get rid of it.
No.
Come on. Not going to happen.
That's why I suggest the tunneling. I believe the tunneling into that bedrock is a vast plateau. It extends for about 70 kilometers inland. I think it's a solid piece of rock where at least we can store the stuff for now until we can think of something else.
Well, that's as good a plan as any.
We just got to. We need a stopgap right now. Above all, a stopgap to stop the slaughter and to give ourselves to buy the time. And if it takes 7 years, 10 years, we got to buy that time. And that's the only last desperation play I see right now that will work. And I think, I don't know what the Department of Energy, we know that the Ministry of Economy in Japan is going to do nothing except try to get this Tokyo Olympics to happen. The Olympics of radioactive death there in a city where you can't drink the water.
And yet people still drink it.
The problem is, and the government is making everything worse, and it's by hiding this problem, by denying the problem. Other countries are terribly affected. The United States, probably most of all, considering the fact that Alaska is not a colony, it is a state. It is a state of the United States. Then we got the western states, largest probably economic concentration for the United States, the largest asset of states.
I didn't tell you. Here, listen to this. When you were gone, I did just a general reading, CPM, counts per minute in my house. Came out 24 to 28 on the average. I then went over to the air intake for the HVAC system and tested the filter. The filter, 120.
There you go.
It's in the air, folks.
Place?
Yes.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, well, that's massive. You're protected by massive mountains, right?
Yeah.
You're in a protected zone. And if it's that bad in a protected zone, and you're lucky you've got those good filters on. And I bet how many people have these nano filters, on their on their ventilation systems. So you've got that. Yeah, it's serious. It's getting out of hand. I think it's starting to reach all over the northern hemisphere.
It has to.
There's no safe place.
It has to.
It's reaching everywhere. As I said about this so-called El Nino, they're talking about, there's a new El Nino off of California. Well, no, that's Fukushima radiation. You can see it visibly in the fog belt offshore,
we saw
in the California current. El Nino in the South Pacific, no, that is the returning trade winds current bringing that radioactive water across. There is no natural occurring El Nino happening. This is all due to the massive, we have no idea the tons of radiation in that water, radioactive substances. It's spreading around the world. We have to contain this in everything. These whales, maybe the last of the whales are in those South Pacific islands, those lagoons and all where they cavort and feed and breed. This is it. It's coming across the trade winds. It's hitting the breeding areas. All these southern Pacific islands are going to be affected. Hawaii, you got the North Pacific current north of Hawaii. You got the California current, east of Hawaii, and you got the trade winds south of Hawaii, and you got Fukushima to the west. It's not safe, No. It's not safe. It's going to close in Hawaii. There's no doubt about it. Any storm coming from any which way, any kind of serious wind coming from any which way is going to bring radiation across Hawaii. So that's just like sitting ducks, okay? We're talking about sitting ducks. Everyone in the northern hemisphere at this point is a sitting duck, and your fate depends on which way the wind blows, basically. And it's getting to be a point the wind can blow in any direction, and you're going to get hit. And you're finding there on your filter, you just proved that you're in a very, very tucked away place.
Figure 26 to 30 in the house, and the filter picked up 125, 130.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. Imagine
the return air filter. Yeah, that's the return air filter. All right? Yeah. And it's picking that much up.
Yeah. And that's particulate matter. Those are particles, okay? Those are nanoparticles of radioactive isotopes.
Right.
We don't know which one, but those are particles. It's not just, something dissolved in the water or something like that. Those are little particles in there. So there is stuff breaking through, obviously, that's dissolved in the water and all that. But those are the little particles, solid particles in there. So the situation is serious when there's that much volume in the skies above North America. And no part of North America now is safe. You know, it's moved in. The jet stream has changed. The Midwest and the South has been pummeled. The strange weather events continue. The massive freak storms continue. You know, things have radically changed since 2000. Well, let's say since 2012, when all this radioactive material had several months to, you know, mix in the air.
Yoshi, as you know, and forgive us, folks, for repeating this, it's piling up against the West Coast, all along the West Coast, and concentrating. It's becoming more and more heavily concentrated all the time. The food chain is gone. We don't know how much life is left in the Pacific Ocean, period. Yeah. We don't know. Yeah. The coasts are deserts.
That Hollywood actor with the Jeff Bridges, I forget, he just sold his huge mansion, Southern California. Kobe Bryant was out, then he's out now, one of the smartest actors in Hollywood. I forget his name, which one it was, but I think he sold his mansion. I mean,
they're selling out. They're not saying why, but they're getting out.
They're getting out. Yeah, if you have a multi-million-dollar, $200 million property, they're going to sell it and get out. The asset is dead. Once this news gets out, it's not going to be worth 200 cents. Okay, so you know they're getting out. So take it from the smart money. Anyone in the know is getting out, and you know, I hate to say it. You know, fight or flee. If the U.S. government, if the Canadian government, if the Europeans, if the world does not want to fight what's going on in Fukushima, I think people have no choice to flee.
They have to flee.
Any individual has very, very little to do. This is like fighting a monster. You know, you don't have a chance. You know, that it is closing in on all of us. It's surrounding us, and people have got to make their decisions. And I think government, above all, people in government have to now act. Let the scientists be unbiased. I mean, it's time to just face up that this disaster is going to consume the entire northern hemisphere unless we start, you know, acting now. You know,
what are we going to do?
I suggested a stopgap of containing the water at least, and trying to move out as much of the nuclear material as we can into the Ablakuma block, so that we have vast system tunnels for containment of the stuff, so it doesn't get further into the atmosphere or the Pacific, because we can't let it out. This was our whole position from the beginning. It has to be contained. Once it's out, we can't ever bring it back in. You know? So that's the first step, and it's got to be done. I mean, you know, year 5. Well, one of the problems in Japan, you know, Tokyo Electric people are always changing. You know, y'all see a new name. You don't see the same old scientists or the same old executive. What is going on in Tokyo Electric? They're all falling by the wayside, okay? They have to hire new guys, rookies, to come in.
Are they actually getting sick and dying?
We have no idea because they won't report it. You know, it's going to be diagnosed as something else, right? Like Heather Nintendo, 55 years old, died of cancer, you know?
Yeah, I saw that.
Nintendo, you're one of the richest guys in Japan. You have a nice life. You live in these, you know, beautiful high-rises, you know, first class. There's no reason, you know? I mean, you know, but people are popping off, and it's leaving inexperienced people in the wake. The Department of Energy guys with any experience, I guarantee they won't be with the department in 5 or 6 years. They're going to realize, see which way the wind's blowing. Blowing from Fukushima, they're going to flee for their own lives and leave another hole in their defense, and the pop will fight back. I think this is what the government's got to realize. After 5 years, I think we will have lost the ball. You know, something has to be done within the next few months to turn this thing around at the federal government level. Because unless the United States leads this counter effort, countermeasure, I don't see anyone else stepping in. The Europeans aren't going to step in. The Canadians aren't going to do it. The Australians aren't going to do it. The Chinese aren't going to do it. Chinese are doing a little bit. They're doing research, and they're finding alarming results. Yeah? They're alarmed for their own lives. Koreans, well, they're closing the doors. The Taiwanese are closing the door to all Japanese products. They realize this is dangerous. They're going back into their turtle shells. So it really is up to the United States government, which encouraged nuclear energy in Japan, which signed a non-proliferation treaty with Japan, when we built many of the reactors, designed and built many reactors, provided much of that uranium. And the United States government has to buck up here to what they've got to do. It's their responsibility. No one else is going to step forward. So, and the Department of Energy has got to drop this song and dance about, selling more reactors or new generation reactors. Like Bill Gates, of all people, wants to invest in nuclear power.
He's nuts.
This is look at the damage he's already done. Now he wants to invest in.
Oh, he wants to vaccinate. Yep. He wants to vaccinate the kids so he kills them from the inside. Then he wants to pump up the nuclear power so he can kill the rest of us from the outside.
Yeah, I mean,
and the inside
man
too.
Must be the Terminator. I mean, well, look what he's done. How he's screwed up our lives already.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Where would we be without Billy Boy Gates?
Right.
Gee.
Oh boy. Yes.
It gets crazy.
I mean, there are stories about him that have never been told. I guess they won't be told. He's long gone. People are too terrified, of course, up there in that Seattle area to tell us what's really going on with Gates and Boeing and all those creepy companies up there, and their strange social activities, if you want to put it that way. Okay, so but basically, year 5 will be a turning point because a lot of people involved in the nuclear industry will be coming down with cancer, and it means people who could potentially help will be in wheelchairs and respirators. Okay,
I think
they're not going to be able to help.
No, I think you're 100%
so we gotta
right.
Make our moves fast. We got to nip to the problem and move quickly now. There's the time. The clock is run out. Yeah.
We are on borrowed time.
Yeah, with the doomsday clock. Well, this is like 2 seconds before doomsday. This is where we're at right now. And unless people wake up and stop sitting around like they got all the rest of their lives to deal with this, well, you will have all the rest of your life to deal with it. A very short.
You'll have eternity to deal with it. Yoshi, thank you. You take care, my friend. Talk to you next week.
Yeah,
Be
you
well.
too. I hope you're feeling better. You're recovering from the accident. I hope all is well.
It's getting better. Thank you. Yeah.
Good. We're glad that you're coming back. Very happy here, and we're happy that Dana is recovering as well.
Yeah.
And all of his findings are being totally confirmed by the scientists in Alaska, by fishermen everywhere.
Exactly.
There's no doubt about the truth of his findings and his marine ecological work. He's a marine ecologist, as far as I can see, who's shown the kind of same science that, as much as I disagree with Darwin went out there and did the specimens, and he follows in the footsteps of many great scientists before him in field research. So,
nicely said. Thank you.
At least we have that.
Yes, indeed. All right, Yoshi. Talk to you next week.
Mm-hmm. All right. Bye-bye.
From Thailand, Yoichi Shomatsu, and our report for you on Fukushima. All right, that's our Monday. We're off and running, and we'll be back with you tomorrow night. You know who's on tomorrow night? Now, you don't want to miss this. Remember who went off to Hong Kong to be lionized by the Chinese, red carpet, the world's foremost expert on psychic warfare? Terrible Tim. Terrible Tim is back in Brighton, England already. You'll get the whole story here tomorrow night. I talked to him. He's funny. All right, that's tomorrow night. Talk to you then.